That's right. It is a glass case of emotion. That's kind of what the playoffs just feel like in general, right?
Mm-hmm,
They're just
mm-hmm.
like, they're here. You're going to feel things. And maybe, in the case of Drew Brees, feel things for the last time. Cecil, Lammey, Sigmund, Bloom with our divisional round recap here on the Audible, the footballguys.com podcast. And Bloom, before we jump into
Yeah.
recapping the games, let's kind of expand on what we said before the show. Like, it was the playoffs,
Mm-hmm.
but none of these games were particularly satisfying.
Well, in very few of the stories of the games can you say that each team put out like at least like a B plus performance and forced the other team to be better than them to advance. Like we've seen some incredible divisional games like that. So he's like immediately I'm thinking of like San Francisco, New Orleans, Alex Smith, Vernon Davis. The San Diego Miami game that was kind of my birth into football fanaticism and Kellen Winslow. None of these games did you feel like the teams brought out the best in each other consistently for the whole game. Some of them were defined by mistakes. Some of them were defined by what teams couldn't do, which is it feels empty. And part of why it feels empty, and Amy Trask, who's a terrific Twitter follow.
Hi.
Yeah, hi. Isn't that wonderful though? Isn't that
Yeah.
wonderful as a personal brand?
Mhm.
And she worked for Al Davis. Al Davis respected her. Al Davis respected her when it came to football. And she talked about on Twitter the emptiness for the teams that lose at the end of the season. And even though there's next year, it's a sense of mortality. You've invested everything. You've invested everything you had for the last 5-6 months. But if we're really talking about the off season, like you can't take the off season off. Like your life, like your being, and now you have to. Just like we talked about, we experience it in a little sprinkle, like with fantasy football, or how the football season resides in our life. So I think that's part of the emptiness too, because I think about New Orleans, I think about Cleveland, I think about the Rams, I think about Baltimore, and all of them have to feel that feeling of going to their graves knowing that they didn't play their best football in their last game.
Well, I think about the playoffs because 'tis the playoffs, and to celebrate, all new players can play for free for the $1 million top prize with your first deposit. Thanks to our partnership with DraftKings. Create your DraftKings DFS account and make a deposit. DraftKings will credit your account with a free contest entry. Draft your lineup and compete for millions in prizes. Just go to dkng.co/FBGMilly to play. That's dkng.co/FBGMILLY. Act quickly. This offer ends after the playoffs. Minimum $5 deposit. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details. Well, I always forget how we do this format, Bloom, until we start talking.
Yeah.
But let's just talk about the entire game.
Sure.
It's Green Bay Packers. It's Los Angeles Rams. It's 32-18. Packers advance. NFC Championship game in Lambeau. Of course, the playoffs going through Lambeau. And, well, you saw with the Rams, you thought, okay, well, Jared Goff is a little bit banged up, so they'll lean on Cam Akers, and they'll really make sure that he's out there. And what's the one thing that'll take you out of that when you're not playing close football? Now, it was, 19-10 at halftime?
Yeah.
Which, okay, that's close enough to keep running, but 18 for 90 and a touch for Akers, so it's like he had enough there. You had Van Jefferson come through with the only receiving touchdown, but Robert Woods didn't do much with his 8 catches, 48 yards. And you saw the kind of flailings. What's the flailings of the LA Rams on the Packers side of things? A.J. Dillon a little bit banged up. We'll talk about that. You saw Alan Zard come through with big plays. Devontae Adams, incredible catches all around. Robert Tonyan with some very important catches as well. And then Aaron Jones nearly 100 yards on the ground with a rushing touchdown as well. So the Packers seem to be the most put together of the teams that won this weekend, Bloom. And it kind of went the way that we thought. I guess maybe I was assuming the Rams, instead of giving Akers like 18 carries, would give him 28 carries. And what kind of difference would have that made in this contest?
Yeah, this game, as you said, Green Bay the most complete team, right? Like if there was a star of the weekend, it was Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
Why is this game dissatisfying for the Rams? Well, if we would talk about a side story here, McVay and Goff, Nick Shook, NFL.com, marriage counseling, something like that. as we saw, really McVay put the training wheels back on the offense this year. He just doesn't trust Goff. He wanted to start John Walford over him. Goff looked better this week. Goff didn't look like he didn't know where the ball was going to go when he let it go. He was actually on time. His throws were accurate. He set up run after catch opportunities. Goff was not the problem. In fact, if Sean McVay wasn't feeling ambivalent about Goff, we saw them sometimes go in a tempo, empty set, 5 wide look, and it was good. Green Bay has a stiff defense. Green Bay linebackers getting into their drops was easy to pick apart, and Goff was doing it. He was 21 for 27, But McVay didn't embrace this idea of an aggressive pass offense. We saw, by the way, Van Jefferson looking good. Josh Reynolds entering free agency, looking good. Bobby Tree's not having quite as big of an effect. But you saw that it was there. But they weren't really that aggressive on offense, partially because Cam Akers looks good. How exciting is it to look forward to 2021 with Cam Akers fully yoked up as the lead bell cow, whatever word you want to use for it. He looks great. He looks fantastic. And but they didn't really go that aggressive on offense, probably because they were going to rely on their defense, right? I mean, that's the plan.
Right.
You can be conservative because this is number one defense. And really, getting this weekend of great football matchups on paper kicked off, what was exciting about this was the Rams defense really in the second half of the year and in the wild card round announced themselves as a force to be reckoned with. We're one of the big players that's going to say how this season stands out, how it turns out. And they looked soft. Were they intimidated by Rodgers? Do you think that before the game even started, it got into their head?
Right. And the Packers are the ones we were worried about being intimidated.
Right. The Rams defense was a step slow. The Rams defense was getting rattled, and you saw, and by the way, before I turn the page, I got to say another thing that we should say positively for the Packers defense: Rashawn Gary, Kenny Clark, Zadarius Smith, all recording sacks. Brian Gutekunst, I say that right? Perfect name for a Green Bay Packers GM. These are guys that Rashawn Gary coming on, making plays here, and Everett was quiet going into free agency. We'll see what kind of reception he gets. But the Rams defense from the beginning looked reactive instead of proactive. And you saw, I think, Cecil, there was a ripple. There was a point, it was Elgin Jenkins, who was another Gutekunst pick. This is going to be a theme, right? And Aaron Donald, and Jenkins was handling him. And Donald grabbed him by the face mask with both hands. I mean, something that borders on ejectable, and yanked him. And in that moment, I think it rippled through, and this is actually something that's good about social media, okay?
Yeah.
You could see everybody ripple and say, wow, it's not the Rams' day. And it's almost like Donald knew it wasn't the Rams' day because he wasn't 100%. They said he could take himself on and off the field as he desired, and he was on the field half the time. There were lots of key moments in the game that he wasn't out there, and he wasn't affecting the play. He wasn't influencing the play. And it's kind of like he already knew that he wasn't going to be able to do that. And in that moment that it was becoming so apparent to him, it just was the frustration. Also early in the game, Jalen Ramsey. It's just good play design and execution when Javonte Adams at the 1 goes across the formation, comes back, and at that point Ramsey has to navigate through the trash of secondary linebackers because it's the goal line defense, and he is a step behind Adams. He's so frustrated. I mean, he's as frustrated as you'll see, demonstrably frustrated. He directs it at Nick Scott at first, but I think it was just a good play and a good design. Maybe Nick Scott was supposed to switch, but either way, in those two moments, Ramsey and Donald, who again joined forces to create this Rams number one defense, just showing it wasn't their day. It wasn't their day, and Aaron Rodgers looks just too good right now. He's just locked in. He's totally locked in. It's scary. You had Aaron Jones, UTEP two-step going in free agency. Hope they keep him. A.J. Dillon looks good. I get it. Jamal Williams is a free agent too. Keep Aaron Jones. He had a big 60-yard run. So at every moment where it seemed like the Rams might be able to tighten this thing up a little more, something like that would happen. Aaron Jones, 60-yard run.
Right.
And
the big Tunyon play.
Right.
Something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And then finally you had the coup de grace, Alan Lazard. And look, it's the joke's on us, right? Those of us, when I say us, I mean the people who eviscerated the Packers for their draft, because Aaron Rodgers playing great. They have their backup plan in place for the future. They didn't take a wide receiver partially because they liked what they had in Lazard and Valdez-Scantling. Lazard showing that, Valdez-Scantling showing that at different times during the season. And the other thing that this game really stood for in my mind, Cease, is that in the offseason, it's like group therapy, right? The marriage counseling that Goff and McVay need.
Right.
LaFleur and Rodgers had it, right? I mean, you could really almost picture there had to be some meeting of the minds, because Aaron Rodgers this year has embraced the running on early downs and quick passing that are hallmarks of this offense. And they were hallmarks of how they just pushed the Rams down the field. You know, they were just barging their way downfield on the Rams, over them, around them, through them. It didn't matter. And this is the Rams defense that we thought was going to play a role in the outcome of this game. And Rodgers still in 2-minute drills and in situations where he extended the play was Aaron Rodgers. Like, oh my God. As soon as the play is extended, it's like Mahomes now, you know, like, your stomach drops for the defense when they have to defend him outside of the structure of the play. And Rodgers was able to do that. So it's a marriage, a happy marriage, and a team that's going to host the NFC title game. And they just look like they're rolling. They look like they're a train unstoppable right now.
Well, here's the thing about LaFleur, Bloom, and well, we all know in every relationship there, people don't give equally, and you shouldn't expect that, right? Well,
Right.
I'm going to give this, so I'm going to get exactly this. Like, no, you should do it because that's the way that you want to be.
Right.
So who had the impetus to put this counseling together? Well, it was LaFleur,
Yeah.
obviously, and the love pick played into that role, right? To let Rodgers know who's got the power.
Yep.
And Rodgers then listened.
Mhm.
So will McVay do that? Is anyone left on the Rams staff? I know our chat room is lighting up about that. Brandon Staley.
Yeah, right.
Dude, it was like 2 years ago. He was coaching the linebackers
I
for the
know.
Broncos.
Outside linebackers, I think.
Yes.
Like not even all the linebackers.
Right. Well, you don't want to coach the inside ones with the Broncos.
A lot of coaching.
God,
At least
awful.
you're job security, because there's a lot to work on.
No, there's tons to work on. But like, okay, you know, that's a fast track to a head coaching gig. What was our first coaching carousel show? Like, I feel like it was just everyone getting fired.
Geez. Yeah, right.
Now we got to do one about everyone getting hired, right? And then the people that are left over. Houston, trying to do two things too little, too late. Okay.
Yeah.
Baltimore, Buffalo, 17-3 final score. Buffalo moves on. We're all Bills fans.
Yeah.
We're all Bills fans. Lamar Jackson gets banged up in this one, goes out with that concussion, and in comes Tyler Huntley. Game didn't look too big for him. Now, it did have one like really wild throw, and it was always, especially his first throw, Bloom, or did he scramble when he was in his own end zone? You're like, oh my God. But it's not like Huntley came in and wet the bed. They've already let Robert Griffin III go, and Huntley's signed to a futures deal. So there you go. And well, Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, it's like, well, it was 3-3 at halftime. Yeah. This game was, really back and forth. I don't know if it was necessarily great defensive performance, although there were great efforts from Jerry Hughes and the likes, and certainly on the Baltimore side of things when you're dealing with Josh Allen. And on that flip side, they didn't run the ball except 2 times in the first half. Yeah. One was a scramble, and then one was an actual carry. So they just, all right, we're just not going to run the ball. Well, they did eventually, 16 carries as a team, 37 pass attempts for Josh Allen, who got it done with Stephon Diggs. Find yourself someone that looks at you the way that Josh Allen looks at Stephon Diggs. John Brown really came through in this game, whereas in the wild card round, Bloom, I thought he let his team down. Gabriel Davis didn't have to do much and didn't do anything, even though he was targeted 4 times. No catches in this one. There was a wild player prop, Bloom, about half a yard for Isaiah McKenzie, over under. Half a yard.
Will he touch the ball?
Exactly. So I was like, well, I'll take the over on that. That's easy money right there. So McKenzie did get that 1 or 2 catches, 2 for 8 yards. So there you go. There's that hot over under talk. But so the Bills win, but man alive, you're like, just wanted them to have a little bit more momentum or a little bit more of a statement game, but a W is a W. And now they get a chance to take on the Chiefs. Lots to talk about with the Chiefs. We'll get to that later, Bloom. But in this game again, and then when Jackson goes down, like Baltimore had multiple opportunities to win this thing, whether it was the missed field goals, the wind, affecting that. You had missed field goals, you had, opportunities that were lost by the Ravens. So it's like, okay, Bills, you won, but in your head, there was 3, 4, or 5 different ways the Ravens could have won.
The football gods served this game up on a platter for the Ravens, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the wind made it so that the deep passing wasn't there, and they have a great kicker, the best in history in accuracy, and their offense. I mean, that means you have to rely more on the run, right? Oh, this is a run-based team.
Mm-hmm.
They should have really had the drop on Buffalo, but you felt the ripple. You felt it when Tucker missed the first field goal. You feel like, ooh, doink.
That'll come back to get you.
And it's that doink, the dum bum bum bum, the way it rattles in the empty stadiums now.
That's almost like a drum to the football gods,
right? It's a summoning like a jinx or a hex.
Mm-hmm.
That this was not going to be Baltimore's night, and it was shocking to me because I think that under these conditions, everything was tilted in Baltimore's favor. What happened? I love Lamar Jackson. But as we talk about Cease, playoff football, the screws get tighter. And Lamar Jackson's game might just be so that a good defensive mind, even with an average defense, can frustrate him. Because it isn't just that we've seen Lamar Jackson lose because he's outplayed by the other quarterback or something like that. He loses frustrated. He was frustrated by Tennessee, it was the Chargers, who he had actually had a good game against in his first playoff game. He was frustrated in this game. And some of it might be Greg Roman in the play calling. And look, as great as Greg Roman was last year, I almost wonder if it's in line for the Ravens to have a new offensive coordinator. I don't think they will, but it just earlier.
Well, where's the next level?
Right.
He's doing this, but you've been doing that for 3 years, dude. Like you have to take it to the next level. And it's not all on Jackson.
Right. It's not. It just wasn't a lot of play calls for passing, which is okay. Dobbins was okay. Edwards was okay. Buffalo, early, the Ravens runs were getting downfield, and you thought, ooh, they're going to mulch them. And this game does qualify for some sort of weird stat, like outrushing their team by 200 yards and something else and losing, like the only game. NFL, you see something you've never seen every week. And then you saw Buffalo really rise to the occasion. J.K. Dobbins also had a couple of unforgivable drops. Unforgivable. When you're going to throw the ball as seldomly as they're doing during this game, and you have Lamar Jackson put it on your hands, you got to catch it. And then, Mark Andrews just not getting open. Matt Milano, I think he's going to be a free agent. Remember that name? They got Tremaine Edmonds. Maybe Kansas City got Mahomes, but Buffalo got Edmonds and Tre'Davious White, and they were smart enough to take Josh Allen. So that's not bad. Here we go. These two stories are going to hit glide. And then you have the pick six. He just didn't see Teron Johnson. He just didn't see him. And I think that, as good as Lamar Jackson is as a player and as difficult as he is to defend, you can just see that his process as a passer is just not deliberate. He's not taking in with his field vision and letting something emerge. He's got a little more like a staccato rushed beat as he's going through what's going on, and that doesn't allow Marquise Brown to affect the game. After a little while, I was like, okay, well, Willie Snead's going to be there almost like a check down. That was all they had going in the passing game, and they still could have won this game. Okay, so you added up 6 points missed by Tucker. The pick six was at least a 10.
That was going to be a touchdown. Yeah,
right. I mean, it was at least a 10-point swing, even if Tucker a chip shot. That's it. That's the margin of victory. That's the margin of victory in this game. So it's empty that they still had. And I got to mention the name Leslie Frazier, because it wasn't just Buffalo's game plan against Baltimore's offense. It was the intensity that the Buffalo defense brought. They really were up to the task. And because of the conditions of this game, it relied on them. The Bills' offense was not Josh Allen. They were not going to be the air show. They were not going to put up a lot of points. Leslie Frazier, one thing he did do is sent extra guys, right? Be aggressive against the Ravens. Don't sit back and let them dictate the terms of engagement. Send guys out of the secondary. Send extra players. And it was working against the run. It was working against the pass. Jerry Hughes had a good game. Mario Addison had a sack. Levi Wallace had a cornerback blitz sack. And I think that rattled Lamar Jackson too, is that there were some plays that before he was ready and expecting it, someone was in his face. And, it's a little bitter for Baltimore because you wonder if there is a cap or a ceiling on Lamar Jackson Ravens in the postseason.
Yeah, well, 1,000%. You wonder that. And you wonder, are we going to get that
Can they do
game
it?
that we want?
Can they do it?
Oh, they can do it. Oh, they can do it. 22-17, the final score. Chiefs over the Browns. The Browns' magical run has come to an end, but they fought hard, man. 14 points in the second half because at halftime you're thinking, 19-3, here we go. And the Chiefs, we've often been talking about them flipping the switch, Bloom, right? Well, they could flip the switch. I think they're in the dark, stumbling around trying to find the switch.
Yeah.
And they have been for a while. Okay, it's still there. They're still capable of doing it. Don't tempt fate. And they didn't really do that. Now, Mahomes, people are going to talk about the concussion. Fine. They need to talk about his toe. Mm-hmm. His toe is really bothering him. And if that's a turf toe, which it most likely is, every toe injury is a turf toe, basically. If that's a turf toe, you've got a hobbled Mahomes going into, a very tough AFC Championship game against the Bills and perhaps even to the Super Bowl. We'll see, and we'll preview that game later in the week. But, that's the concerning injury to me. Okay, no Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Here comes Darrell Williams, who looks fantastic, as a runner. Certainly can plug it up in there. Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, of course, doing their thing, and no Sammy Watkins. Who cares? So I actually thought it would be a little more Demarcus Robinson, but it was actually McCole Hardman picking up the slack there. Chad Henne comes in, and the balls on this team. Mm-hmm. The balls on this team to go on, what was that? Was it fourth and six? Or what fourth and one. One, yes, in the shotgun.
Right.
And you line up, and you can tell by everybody's body language, they're just trying to draw them off sides, right? This is a standard old football play. They're just trying to draw them off sides. And then they snap it. Mm-hmm. And then it's a throw to Tyreek Hill, and it's a first, and he sits down on his butt and keeps that clock moving, and it's a win for the Chiefs. So Henne coming through, making plays for this team. It won't be, you can't start Henne against Buffalo, whatever. So this really comes down to Mahomes. I'm skipping over the Browns, Bloom, and I shouldn't. Because of that effort that they showed. And I love the energy, even from a David Njoku, right? Mm-hmm. When he was out there just screaming his head off. Donovan Peoples-Jones, I felt could have been more involved because they don't really have that dude when it comes to the deep passing. And that could have been Peoples-Jones if you'd have targeted him more than once. Higgins comes through with some big plays. Jarvis Landry, I thought was really disappointing. He was ice cold to begin, and then started to warm up, but it's Jarvis Landry. How much warm does he really get? Mm-hmm. You felt at times this might be a Kareem Hunt revenge game, he's going to take the team on his back, and they just never really did. They didn't really feed Nick Chubb as much, but again, it's 19-3 at half. That changes some things. So with the Browns, we can be excited about the future. We can look at this game and go, these are still some of their shortcomings, though.
Yeah, a couple before I dive into this one. And this was the best game of the weekend. A couple housekeeping on the Bills, and I know there's talk Peter King they were going to hire Staley all along, but did the Bills save Brian Daboll for another year by winning? Maybe, or yeah. It's an incentive. Isaiah McKenzie, you mentioned he was the scout quarterback. He was playing Lamar Jackson in practice, so a little and Stephon Diggs, man, what can you say about Stephon Diggs? And by the way, the job that Marlon Humphrey did on Cole Beasley. Okay. This is the game, Cease. This is the game that even though this was a not so satisfying weekend of football in some ways, emotionally, if you're watching this game in real time, you will be able to come back to this game years from now. Mm-hmm. You'll be able to come back to that moment. See, it's the moment in the Rocky movie or something when the overwhelming favorite is just pummeling Rocky, and then Rocky lands this punch that puts him on the canvas, and everyone's in the arena, they're like, this might actually be a real fight.
Right.
I don't know what's going to happen. Whoa. I mean, it was an adrenaline shot, man, when Mahomes went down. And it was an adrenaline shot in part, too, because Kansas City, they're the team that can just turn it on when they feel like it, cooler on the other side of the pillow. Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, right? Like, really, Cecil, on the sidelines, is there a coach that seems more at ease during a game than Andy Reid? You know? When does Andy Reid ever look like nervous or frantic on the sidelines?
Right.
Never.
Right. Very rarely even angry.
Yeah. He's placid, man. He's like a Buddha over there. And in some ways, that was part of this game at the very end. So this game, Cleveland didn't get Chubb established. I really wanted to see Nick Chubb get to like 25 carries in this game. Just Nick freaking Chubb. Can you stop him? Go on 4th and 2, 4th and 3, and just run at them and make them tired of seeing Nick Chubb coming at them. That happened during the third quarter. Otherwise, he wasn't so much of a factor. Actually, it was Baker Mayfield playing well. So I come out of this game with respect for Mayfield. Absolutely. He was making some tremendous throws. The game never got too big for him. As far as like a team, as everything got crazier, could the team look to him and like draw calm from him? Yes, absolutely. And I think he grows during this game. The team grows during this game. Jared, love you, Jared. He's like, I'm strangely okay with this. Because, man, it felt like it's like there's the fumble and the drive, and now we have the touchback. Really? Mm-hmm. Like, really? Like, now Browns fans have to live with this? But Browns fans at peace, because I think the quote, Cease, was, it used to be, there's always next year, and now it's, I can't wait until next year.
Right.
And, so you love that coming out of this game. But you have the Higgins play, and a lot of discussion about the rule. Maybe it'll get the rule changed. Maybe there's a reason. There's always a reason in the football gods' plans, right? That this gets the rules changed, or at least gets a serious discussion. Daniel Sorensen making his name known there. Dirty Dan, nickname. Yeah. Browns fans could just look at this as the missed call on the spearing or targeting or helmet-to-helmet contact there. But Higgins still played well. Higgins still made some plays, venturing through that dangerous territory where the honey badger lurks. And by the way, honey badger had his effect on this game.
Yes.
7th Ward represent there. Not the only 7th Ward, not the only player from the 7th Ward of New Orleans to make a big statement on Sunday. Like you said, there's some hope with David Njoku. L'Jarius Sneed is another name that people need to know. Louisiana Tech, staying in Louisiana. Tremendous player who's been making an impact from day one. 4th round pick, Chiefs. But you just feel like it was there. It was there for the Browns. You even feel like going into Buffalo next week, they could hang with the Bills. Like, they could really entertain thoughts of going to the Super Bowl with this Browns team after the injury. But there's the missed opportunities. Mahomes looking great in this game. So it's kind of like the Mahomes-Rodgers weekend, right? Like, Mahomes and Rodgers are just these unstoppable forces in the NFL right now. But you said there's the toe. And then this team was, missing opportunities. They were still easily outplaying the Browns. And if Mahomes had not gotten hurt, they would have won this game comfortably. Okay, let's be real. But they were missing opportunities. They were settling for field goals when you're not used to seeing that. Their pass defense was a problem. Like you said, Darrell Williams was okay. Travis Kelce, tremendous. Travis Kelce's route on Denzel Ward. Everyone look it up. Poor Denzel Ward. Like, someone pulled the rug out from under you. Tyreek Hill. Myles Garrett got banged up in this game, too. So Aaron Donald and Myles Garrett, they're probably the two most talented defensive linemen in the league, easily. Maybe the two best defensive linemen in the league. Both get hurt. Both win their team seasons on the line. Not really able to affect the outcome. But what will we remember? What did they say? See, what did Patrick Mahomes say? Anything can happen. Right? Right?
Yeah.
And it's great. And Chad Henne will always have this moment. Mm-hmm. Chad Henne isn't this like life, I used to use the falling baby out of the window metaphor. Who do you want to like step in and catch the baby? Chad Henne caught the baby. Mm-hmm. And Andy Reid said, stand right there to catch the baby. And why wouldn't you do it, Cease? I mean, hats off to Andy Reid. And Betts, love you, Betts, was saying during this game, oh, how do you beat the Chiefs? You somehow let it come down to Andy Reid game management. That's the Achilles heel. And you watched how the game was unfolding. Even that they tried to pass and he got sacked on that last drive. Because the thing was, Henne threw a terrible pass into the end zone that got intercepted. Okay, now the Browns just have to matriculate the ball down the field. They can't. The Browns' offense was better with Alex Van Pelt calling plays. I'm just saying, in the playoffs. Like, why? If Alex Van Pelt could have called that last drive, maybe what we're thinking. Also, I thought 4th and 9, even on your side of the field in that game situation, I think you would go for it. If the field goal only put you down 8, why wouldn't you try to keep the ball? Cleveland never gets the ball back because Andy Reid trusted Tyreek Hill can get open. Well, that's not a brain genius move. Like, Tyreek Hill can get open probably easier than any receiver in the whole league. So, of course you would do it. And then to do the slack, Tony Romo, you got to love it. Like, we're all Tony Romo, right? It's great. It's great that Tony Romo gets excited. I love Dick Vitale, too. So, you'll always remember this. Anything can happen. And we're going to see Mahomes next. They're taking bets on the game, Cease. We're going to see Mahomes next week. And, I mean, it's all hurtling towards a Mahomes-Rodgers Super Bowl. My heart is with Allen, but you have Cease. It's almost like gets you back to Marino, Montana, or whatever. Like the idea that there are these two overwhelming forces, and they're just hurtling towards each other right now. But I do think the Chiefs need to tighten it up a little bit. Against Aaron Rodgers, you can't settle for field goals. Against Aaron Rodgers, you can't miss those opportunities.
Well, you saw with Cleveland's body language, and by the way, as our man Brandon highlights, that scramble from Henne.
Yeah.
Because it was, 3rd and 16 or whatever, and he ran for 17 yards. So that was amazing as well. But one thing you saw with Cleveland is when something went awry, there was like an exhale, you're not going to get that with Buffalo.
No.
Like the dangerous thing about Buffalo, because the way the football 101, I'm getting in the preview, but I don't care. Football 101 is like, keep them cold on the sidelines and run the ball and blah, blah, blah. And nope. Buffalo's going to come in and they're going to have that gasoline and they're going to have the Zippo. Yeah. And they're going to be like, I dare you, I dare you, I dare you, blow up on me. I dare you, I dare you, I dare you. Look at Josh Allen's face when he won. Other quarterbacks make a throw to Troy Fumagalli and then go over and do a Call of Duty dance, and lose the game. Then there's Josh Allen, who is advancing to the AFC Championship, and he just looked up at the scoreboard. He's like, next. On to the next one. Mm-hmm. So, we'll save more of the preview for later. But then the final game to talk about, 30-20, the Buccaneers over the Saints. And the Saints couldn't make it 3 in a row, man. Beat them by 30 in the regular season and then lose to them in the postseason. Why? Turnovers. It's just turnovers. And Troy Aikman, whereas we love Tony Romo, Troy, I love douchey Troy,
right, throwing shade.
Yes, when he could just throw shade at everyone, that's the best Troy Aikman. But when Troy Aikman's go, I don't understand why they're not throwing downfield. It's because Breeze can't, dude.
Because he can't. Yeah,
it's because he can't. Why is that? Well, I don't know why. They're Troy, put the scotch down, buddy. He can't do it. Let's go back to being a D-bag, and then that'll be. And that is very, very entertaining, by the way. And I know some people don't like Joe Buck, but Joe's always been nice to me, so I'll consider myself a Joe Buck supporter. But anyway, So Brady gets in this one, and couple of touchdowns, fine. Leonard Fournette starts. Ronald Jones plays, fine. Mike Evans out there battling, gets the touchdown, but man, him and Lattimore, that's always so much fun to watch. Thought Godwin could have done more in this one, Bloom, honestly. Mm-hmm. Gronkowski, I had a first touchdown Gronkowski that would have paid $800, and he dropped it. Whatever. It's fun, man. The player prop side of things is very fun. And then the Breeze just kind of walking off the field, Traquan Smith, blah, 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 Emmanuel Sanders, whatever. And Michael Thomas with nothing. The turnovers killed him. And then Breeze walking off the field. Jay Glazer had the report. He's going to retire. Breeze certainly looked like a player that's going to retire. I know he's going to take his time, but he's going to take his time to just retire. And to go out like this with those turnovers, and I guess I harken back to Dan Marino's final game. What do you have in that game? 4 picks, whatever it was. Sometimes you don't get to go out the way that you want to. It's not always going out on top and winning it all and walking away on your own terms. This game will take it from you any way it can, man. And it just seems like, Bloom, you're there in New Orleans.
Right.
What's the mood like in terms of this Breeze thing and your thoughts on what the Bucs did and didn't do?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's a good lead, right? Just thanks for the memories, Drew. It's sad. I mean, there's just sadness. There's sadness. There's sadness. But as I'm watching the games early in the season with the love of my life, Kate, who's a diehard Saints fan, we were watching the games early in September, and she's like, they can't win a Super Bowl with Breeze. Like, she's just like, it almost resigned herself to the idea that they can't win a Super Bowl. Like, they can't win a Super Bowl with Drew Brees. Just at this advanced point in his career. And we've watched both Breeze and Roethlisberger just contemplate their own mortality, like stare into space thinking like, I don't have it anymore. And when you achieve greatness, you're probably going to be inclined. Very few guys go out on top their way, as you said. You're going to be inclined to play until the game tells you like you just can't do it anymore. And maybe you can still do it enough to keep playing, but then there's that everyone's different, you know. Can you handle playing when you know you can't do what you used to be able to do? Phillip Rivers, actually, of the aging quarterbacks, and Tom Brady too, we'll talk about him, the ones showing that they can defy age to an extent. But I'll really sum this game up, Cease, with what my good friend via 313 Austin, check it out, Uriah Zane Hunt said during the game. Like, neither of these teams can beat the Packers. Okay, when you watch this game, like, neither of these teams can beat the Packers. I know the Bucs did it early in the year, and I hope to eat my words. You know, Brady versus Rodgers, that's a great story. Brady was good enough. A lot of his deep throws were off, although Godwin could have caught a touchdown with just a little bit more holding the ball to the ground. You did have one good deep ball to Miller, but the passing game for the Bucs was pretty meh. And it was also not because the Saints were getting a lot of pressure. The offensive line was doing very well against the Saints' pressure that really dictated a lot what happened with Brady in the first two games. Brady's just a little more erratic now. You know, there's just more throws that are off, and sometimes off in dangerous ways. And there's some bounces that could have gone the Saints' way in terms of turnovers that didn't. They leaned a lot on the running game. It was basically an even, which in NFL is like run heavy when you're 50-50 run pass. Ronald Jones back out there, but Leonard Fournette, there's your other seventh forward, pride. Leonard Fournette back in New Orleans, sending out the Drew Brees Saints era. Very involved in the community. Great to see him doing well. He's headed to free agency too. Antonio Brown gets a little banged up. You know, that story is whatever. He's not really having a big effect on their season, but it was more about Brady. Evans catches a touchdown. I think the Saints not getting pressure hurt them, but it was really just the turnovers. That was the difference. The difference in the game was the turnovers. And to the interceptions, especially the one to Kamara. I mean, I don't know if it was a miscommunication. I don't know what happened, but it was just too easy. The Jared Cook fumble, that's Jared Cook, man. I mean, Jared Cook's going to give you the best and the worst, often in the same game.
Right.
And that was the point. They were up 20-13. They were driving down the field again. So that Cook fumble was very much, again, I think of my wife, we're watching the game, and she's like, that's it, they lost. And I'm like, you're being like me. Come on, don't give up, because she's always the one telling me don't give up, right? And she was right. I mean, that was really the turning point in the game. But some of it is just that the Bucs defense could compress the field when you aren't throwing downfield, when you're not threatening them. They didn't lose because of Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara was fantastic against a very tough run defense without any help from Latavius Murray or Taysom Hill. And they missed Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill did very well against Tampa in the first two matchups. How do you know they missed Taysom Hill? Their best offensive play was a trick play with the quarterback lined up out wide. Okay? Sean Payton he's fluent in putting these plays together that can, especially a defense like Tampa, Cease. Because Tampa's defense is like the dog with the tennis ball. You know, you just move it, and there's a split second that you got him, you know, and it worked. I mean, did you see that play? They didn't know what to do. They just hadn't seen that before. So all they could think was like, follow Kamara. We're going to try to tackle Kamara. And then there's Traquan Smith just like, I'm here. And Traquan Smith looked great, by the way. Traquan Smith's touchdown catch on the one good drive Breeze had all day was magnificent. Magnificent. Michael Thomas, a non-factor. Hats off to Carlton Davis, who covered Thomas well in week one when Thomas's ankle wasn't messed up. Thomas having ankle surgery. So I think he's, just give him a mulligan on this season. He's still good, and he was pretty good with Taysom Hill. So if it's Taysom Hill next year, or Jameis Winston. And did you notice, speaking of throwing shade, that during the Fox broadcast, they're talking about how when Jameis Winston threw that touchdown, everyone on this north side was like, yeah. And this Tampa was like, huh? Him? Now? This? Really?
Uh-huh.
You know, we would have had a juicy, delicious story if the difference in the game was Jameis Winston. You know?
Why didn't they use Jameis more? When Breeze can't go down, and again, it's about getting Breeze out the right way. You want him to go out like this? Use Jameis more, you could have advanced.
Yeah, and it was, I think it was Aikman saying, like, Sean Payton's going to have another one up his sleeve of some type of play like that, but we never saw it. So, it was just disappointing. The Bucks won. I mean, and then look, it's good to get to know these names like Sean Murphy-Bunting and Carlton Davis and Devin White and this rising stars on defense and this Tampa defense and Todd Bowles, who still is in conversation for coaching openings, and Bruce Arians. And what was a lot of the talk too, by the way, because it's always Belichick. Brady Belichick hangs over this whole thing. Mm-hmm. Come on. And Rob Gronkowski saying, we get to be ourselves. Although someone on Twitter, like he got to be himself this year. And Bruce Arians saying, well, we let Brady coach. They didn't let him coach. We let Brady coach in Tampa. So, the Super Bowl is in Tampa. Tampa did thump Green Bay earlier this year, but I think that thumping kind of woke them up and helped them grow into the team they are now. So, there's a storyline where you can say, Tampa could have a run here, but I think they didn't win this game as much as the Saints lost it.
Oh boy, what a wild and fantastic week of football that we had. We are hoping that the championship games can be even juicier coming up on Sunday, big Sunday. I'll probably be watching that game in Mobile. I don't know. I'm flying into Pensacola on Sunday. So it's our tradition. What was that? Colts Patriots, right? We watched that at some like Applebee's or something in Baton Rouge. Chili's,
yeah.
In Baton Rouge.
That's right. Always Louisiana. Always tying it back to Louisiana. So.
That's fantastic. All right, everybody. That is a wrap for our divisional round recap show. Hope everyone out there is doing fantastic. He's Sigmund Bloom. You follow him on Twitter at Sigmund Bloom. I am at Cecil Lammey. The show is at the Audible. Before you're out of here, if you enjoy the content, please do all those YouTube things. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so that you never miss a vid. He's Sigmund Bloom. I'm Cecil Lammey. We are the Audible. We'll be back with the news and notes, probably a coaching carousel show, and definitely a preview show. And oh boy,
Snuka Scorpables and Dorbaline. I usually nail it.
Damn it. All right, everyone out there, peace and stay frosty.